Good evening to all XIM members for the alumni gathering in Singapore. Some of you may not know me. I'm Professor Govindrajan. Now, the culprit behind this whole exercise is a man called Nihar Das, GSEC of the batch of 97. So he actually was kind enough to invite me to attend this, but both my daughters are who are visiting Bhubaneswar for the annual visit. I said, there's no way I can miss it. So Nihar, the persistent man that he is, said, sir, why don't you record something and send it? So at first I thought it was a casual recording which I can do on my phone. But Nihar didn't leave it at that. He got Sabyasachi Patra, his batchmate, who is a celebrated wildlife photographer, and said, he'll come and take the shooting. I said, wow, I have a celebrity photographer who takes photographs of wildlife and so on and so forth, and then here I am being photographed by him. Then I thought to myself, he's also again shooting wildlife because I'm a dinosaur, so I guess that's it. So Nihar, I asked Nihar, what do I talk about? So he said two things, sir. If you could, he gave me a list of a big list here of the students attending, and if you could talk about them. I said I have a problem because I haven't taught all of them, so people shouldn't feel left out that sir mentioned somebody else's name and not my name. So he said you can also do one thing, you can take a sense of history of XIM since it started, and therefore everybody here gets a view of every batch of XIM and what progress was made for each batch. That was more acceptable to me, and so that's where I'm going to basically talk about. Now, first of all, XIM has had the first batch passed out in 89. So we had 36 batches which have graduated, which is a lot. I taught the first 16 non-stop, 16 or 17, and then 2 in between. So I can only talk about the first half, really. The second half of XIM is something which I've observed as an outsider, not as an insider. So, but observations from an insider are always more potent. So I'll try and take you through what XIM went through in these 16, 17 years, from the formative years when it started. So if you ask me, if you look at XIM, the first batch graduated in 89. Unfortunately, there are no representatives here. The list has been given by Nihar, right? So if I missed out some name, you know whom to blame. So the batch of 89 has no representative here. But 89 to 97, 98, around the first 8 years of my teaching at XIM was what I classify as the building phase, the building of the brand XIM. And these batches can, I think, take a lot of credit for creating whatever brand XIM has created over the years. Because all of them created some very valuable properties, and creating properties are something which is very critical for any brand to exist. And some of these are very durable properties which I will take you through and what they did at each stage. And then the period after that, 98 to 2006 till I left or 2005 essentially was what I call the period of consolidation. And these batches also need commendation because they really built on the initial branding created by the first 7 or 8 batches. So therefore, let me come back to the properties piece, and then I'll address some of the I've taken the list of the students who from each batch who are attending. As I said, unfortunately, there's nobody from the 89 batch, which is what I call the founding batch of XIM. That's the batch which I started my teaching career as well. So that's a batch obviously is a lot special to me. We have one representative from the 1990 batch, which is Anish Matthew. And this was the batch which created the first very durable property of XIM, which was the marketing association of XIM, which was called MXIM. I remember their MXIM coordinator was a guy called Biju Dominic, and we wanted to create a property, which is an association, which is a marketing association, which gives some kind of a co-curricular activity for XIM students. I remember Biju going across to XLRI, getting an idea from them. And then we created this whole concept of a rural marketing fair, which many batches have gone through. That was the first taste of our students creating something, creating a property, creating something which is of value. Anish Matthew is from that batch. And the batch after that, 1991, that's Pinaki. Pinaki is the person from the 91 batch who took this Maxim, the rural marketing fair, particularly to the next level in terms of, and we had a lot of corporates coming in, ITC, HUL, etc., all coming in. And that was the first taste where XIM students started interacting with corporate. Remember, Bhubaneswar in 89-90 was, small town bunduks, somebody from Bombay coming, it's a big company, corporate exposure. All of those were very critical for XIM to believe in themselves. 92, no one is here, but 93, we have three representatives, Anant, Padmaja, and Manoj Mishra. And Anant was the person who created the second property of XIM, which was XIM, or the Finance Association. And he organized, I remember, a beautiful investment fair in Suchna Bhavan, Bhubaneswar, and that again had a lot of corporates coming in. But you must realize what these initial years did for us in XIM at that particular point of time, getting corporates coming in to Bhubaneswar, to XIM, names which we had read in the newspapers, we interacting with them. It did a lot to build confidence in yourself, in the brand, and faith in yourself is the most important thing, I think, for any institution. I mean, that's something which no money can buy. 95 batch, 96 batch, no one is here, but these two batches created something which is very important for us. In fact, particularly the 94 batch, sorry, 94 we have Bala, C.G. Balakrishnan, Murli, and Shovik, right? And these were the three representatives from the 94 batch. 95 batch, that was the first batch when we had 100% placement. Nobody's here, unfortunately, from that particular batch. And for us at XIM to crack 100% placement during a placement season, and that was 4 days, it's a big thing. We tried it with the 94 batch, it didn't work out. With the 95 batch, we hit pay dust. And that was a very big boost for XIM, that we can actually compete with the IIMs and the others. That time the only basis of competition was the IIMs and XLRI. SPJN and all were just still emerging. That we could compete with the IIMs with a placement week. So I mean, we had these associations in place, we had this placement week in place, and we were cracking placement. Many of our companies were common with them. And confidence in yourself is something which is so critical, and that's, I think these batches started doing it. The 95 batch was actually a vindication of the fact that we could actually do it. 96 batch took it to the next step. Nobody from in this gathering here. Then came the next breakthrough, the 97 batch. There's a big representation here. There's Kingshuk, there's Nihar, there's Ria, there's Chovit, there's Rishi Mahanti. Rishi Mahanti, incidentally, was the first candidate we interviewed for the admission for that particular batch in Chennai. I don't know if you remember. He was from NIT Surathkal, REC Surathkal those days. Now, Nihar's, this is the batch of 97, I think, did another very important property a very enduring property of XIM, which is expressions, right? Expressions, when Nihar came and told me, sir, we want to try expressions, because that time the question was, auqaat hai ki nahi, to do a, can you do a cultural festival of that kind? And Nihar said, sir, let's try it. I said, boss, are you sure? Because I mean, Bhubaneswar, difficult to reach, bad connectivity, and very few institutes really had. IITs, of course, have been doing it for ages, IIMs, very few. So they said, let's try, sir. And I remember it was an amazing experience. It was a bit of a disaster because the stage collapsed. I remember the stage collapsing and Nihar and gang lifting it up. And then we had, in a way it was, if you classify it as a normal, event, it was a failure because we only got local representation, etc., etc. But the most important thing is the will to do it. We didn't break even. I had to pay money. We didn't have money to meet the expenses and so on and so forth. But what I admired was the guts of the batch to say, boss, let's try and do it. 97 batch was the ones who did it. We started expressions and then created a precedent. 98 batch, we have Nandini and Samir Satpute here. That batch and the batch after that, 99 batch, which is Piyush and Sanjit, and the 2000 batch, unfortunately no one here. They really took expressions to the next level, building on the base built by the 97 batch. And expressions in 2001, I mean, by the year 2000, I used to hide during expressions because it had become a kind of an event which was it was a social thing. That are you invited to? Have you got a pass to attend? Expressions. If you haven't, you're not arrived. So therefore, they used to ring me up saying, "I need a pass. I need a pass," and I used to hide. Right. So credit to the batch of 97 for creating it, 98 to 2000 to building it, and that created. And by that particular point of time, we had a lot of B schools visiting. You must realize the importance of peer recognition. The other IIMs attending, presenting papers, participating in events, cultural festival, drinking daru, yes. But all of that became very, very critical, and that's where the brand XIM started getting diffused. That's why I say properties are very important in creating a brand. You must understand that from now onwards, the payback period started for XIM, right? So this whole branding exercise, this goes to corporates. 98 batch, Nandini and Samira there were the first two PPOs. PPOs were unheard of in XIM. Nandini got a PPO from ICI, if I remember, and Samir from Wipro. We had a guy called Loknath getting it from Tata Steel. And this was actually a vindication of the fact that people will come and recruit our people for. Today, of course, PPOs are very common, but I think it's very important for the assembled gathering here to realize where it started. It started a long time back, and because of efforts of a lot of intrepid batches who tried to bring this to the stage where XIM is right now. And then onwards, it was no stopping XIM, in the sense the base which was built from this particular point of time. We have the 2001 batch, there's a big representation here. We have Nivedita, Lara, Anjana, Suzanne and Sri Kumar. That was again a batch which had 100% placement. And in a sense, what really happened was the good karma of the earlier batches started kicking in, and these batches started exploiting that equity which the brand XIM had. And it's also equally important to exploit that equity, because we had people joining TAS, people joining Marico, people joining HUL, people joining good companies, and that also kind of trickles down to the rest of the batch, saying that XIM can do it. I always tell the batch of 1995. 1995 was the first batch where I was involved as a placement coordinator. We had 100% placement in 3 days. And that I always thank them, that thank you for letting us understand that we can do it. And once you can do it, once it's been done, it's very easy. 2001 batch also had 100% placement within a week. But I think the seeds were sown in 1995. Then it went on till 2006, till last time I taught 2005. 2003 we have Sushant and Soumya. In 2006, that was the last batch I taught. I taught them only one course, that is Marketing 1. We have Alka, Ambu, Venkat and Jyoti Sarup. I came back as a visiting. I left XIM in 2005. And 2010 batch I taught both Ishita, Gaurav and Amit, all three. And 2011 Gurbani, Sohi, who was also the placement coordinator at that particular point of time. So my message, which I want to try and capture, is many of you are from the later batches, 2012, 14, so on and so forth. I think it's a very important thing for you to understand what was the contribution done to building brand XIM, done by the initial first 7-8 batches, who really built the platform for this wonderful institution. The next 6-7 batches after that, who really cashed in on that, because both are equally important. Building a foundation, and then you don't build a foundation like Gautam Gambhir, you know what happens, right? The foundation which is created, you have to create on that, or you. So the next 7-8 batches built on that platform, and I think XIM has gone from strength to strength. I don't have much idea of what is happening right now because I've stepped out of XIM, but what I do know is you can take me out of XIM, you can never take XIM out of me. It's a wonderful thing, Nihar, which has been organized. I'm very happy to see a very active and vibrant alumni committee. An institution is not a set of buildings. The assets of any institution are not its buildings. It has beautiful buildings now, by the way, but that's not the asset. The asset really is the alumni base, because that any institution is recognized for the alumni, which all of you represent here.
Please tell us, how do you have such a phenomenal memory? How do you recognize?
It's a very interesting thing. A lot of people ask me about my memory, but my family isn't here. They're in the next room. They think I have the shittiest memory on earth because I don't know where my keys are, where my wallet is. But there's something which happens when it comes to students. I remember small details about them. I don't know how it happens, why it happens, whatever. I mean, this is something which no AI can capture. And particularly the initial batches till about 96, 97, you must realize one more thing about these batches. XIM had no money, so we had no secretarial staff. And I used to give 10, 12 quizzes. And I had to enter the grades myself, right? In those days, we had to share a computer. So you have to first enter the grades in a paper and then go to the computer and fill it. Now remember, if you fill up a roll number, 15 quizzes, grades, तो एक बार तो वहाँ एंट्री करना है, उसका रोल नंबर क्या चाहिए, सब्यसाची पात्रों का रोल नंबर क्या है, वो उसका एंटर करो, फिर वो कंप्यूटर में जाके सब्यसाची पात्रों खोल के डालो, तो automatically वो yeah. So now if you remember the next batches which I taught later, I don't remember roll numbers because exam had become more opulent then. We had more money, so they could appoint secretaries who I used to hand over the papers and enter the grades. But placement is something I handled, so I still remember. I'm just off the top of my head. Ria Dougal, Microsoft, right? No, not Microsoft, sorry, Microland. That's where I think I remember we placed you. Nihar was UDV. Samir Satpute was, as I said, Pinaki Rath was JK Tires. So this is just how it happens. Anish Matthew was VCK, and Anish Matthew passed out in 1990. How I remember? No idea. So have a great evening. Enjoy your evening. Have a couple of drinks from my side. Thank you. Cheers.